Well, hello, my crafty friends out there. Hi, we're back with another card for you today. It's a cute little fun fold that can be used for just about any occasion, I would say. Birthday, thank you, anniversary, probably anything. Sympathy depends on how you decorate it. Hi, I'm Shelley from Papercraft Hugs, and we're going to make another card. So let's go down to the other camera and you can see what we're going to make. So here we are, and the big reveal. So this is what the front looks like, and it's a pretty little flower card. I'm going to make a different variation of it today, but here is one variation. And you can see it has like little wooden slats, like it's the flowers are growing up a fence. You flip that up like that, and you can see there's the other side. If you want to, you can decorate this, just keeping in mind, of course, that they may be able to see in between the slats of the wood. And then you open it up one more time. You can write your little message in there. And then on this side here, you could put like a little card or something, a gift card, a birthday card, a tag, sort of whatever you'd like. Packet of seeds. It all depends on what you'd like to do. Alrighty. So what do we need here? We are going to basically, you're going to need a couple things. Let's just set that aside here up at the top here so you can see. You're going to, of course, need your trimmer. I'm going to move that out of the way. You're going to need your trimmer. You are going to need some sort of a decoration. I'm going to use these balloons and presents, and I'm going to turn mine into a happy birthday card. So we need a sentiment for that. We need something to make the wood grain pattern on the fence posts. Now, it'll look beautiful if you don't have a wood grain pattern. Don't worry about it. But if you do have a wood grain pattern embossing folder, then by all means, go ahead and use it. We are going to need a 4 by 5.5 inch piece of paper. I've got this, it's double-sided, so I haven't decided which side I will use, which one sort of looks better showing through those fence posts, but we'll figure that out when we get there. We need some ephemera. So I have used some die cuts here that I have gone ahead and created, and because there's a stamp, and then I've colored them and then cut them out. I've put a couple of layers of white in behind, so you can see there that it's got some solidity to it. It's almost sort of the depth of a chipboard, and yeah, it just gives it a little bit of solidity, because when we put it on our fence, that's going to add to the solidity of the fence in behind. And with our ephemera here, again, I put several layers in here, not quite as much as with the presents, but I just basically cut white copies of my stamped image, and then I just glued them one on top of each other to make that a little bit more solid, and able to withstand a little bit of bending. And that is going to help with the solidity of the fence. All right, the other thing we're going to need is an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper. For this, I would recommend you using a heavier cardstock, just because with the fence posts, by the time you've got some gaps in here, and by the time that you add your embossing in there, it breaks down the paper fibers a little bit more, and it just helps it to have a little bit more solidity, basically. All right, are we ready to get started? So I'm going to go and I'm just going to set those over to that side so that we don't get it messed up. And we're going to take our 8.5 by 11 inch page. And for this, we need to do some scoring and some cutting. We're going to score first. So we're going to take our paper and we're going to put it the lengthwise so that it's tall up and down towards your tummy, and you're going to score that at 4.25. Now, if you have a trimmer like I do here, where there's a scoring blade and a trimming blade, make sure you have that trimming blade well out of the way. You don't want to trim this as you do your scoring, because, well, then you have two pieces of paper. It doesn't work very well. All right, so I've added my score line at 4.25. Then I'm going to spin it around so that the long side is across the top, and I am going to score that here. Again, use the scoring blade. score that right there. All right, so now you'll notice that we have basically put a score line down the center of this side and a score line down the center here as well. It's kind of hard to see in the lighting here, but they're there. And if we take a look at our sample here, you can see that's what we did here. If you open it up, we had a score along this side and a score along this side. Our next step is to cut this little chunk up in the top corner here out. So this is what we're going to line it back up at 5.5, and we want it so that the length is across the top. Now we're going to use our cutting blade, and basically we're going to cut right down to the 4.25 line. And if you have, most trimming blades now have a little measurement down the side here. So what I like to do is I like to find my 4.25 and just sort of stick my finger there, because that's a reminder as I'm cutting, I don't want to go down below the 4.25. And in fact, I'm kind of eyeballing it, and you can see on the trimming blade, there's the little marks on the side here. That also shows where where the blade is going to trim. I kind of go down, and I would rather be just a teeny bit short than a teeny bit long. So when I go down here and trim, you can see here, I'm just a little bit short of that halfway line. That's okay, because I can trim that up just with a regular pair of scissors. All right, then I'm going to flip it over here, and I'm going with the length going up and down again. I'm going to line that up to 4.25, and I'm going to trim down that line there down to the 5.5, which is halfway down that piece of paper. And again, find that score line there and kind of go down to where it is. And then depending on how close you cut it, you'll either have like a little dangly like this, where I'm just a little bit short, or it might have even cut all the way through. I'm just going to just trim up this last little bit here that I cut it just a teeny bit short, and you can see that little piece falls right out. Don't throw this away, because we're going to use it. Let's just set it aside. Now we're going to take this piece. We can set our trimmer blade aside for right now, and we're going to take this piece. And if we take a look at our sample card here, you can see here we need to flip it over so that the chunk is taken out of the top right hand corner. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the top left hand corner and fold it down just like you would as if it was a normal card, as if this part here didn't even exist. And I like to spin that around so that I can turn it sort of away from me, because then I can just see a little bit better. So I'm going to just pull that little piece over and line that up exactly with my corners. And let's see here. There we go. And just take my bone folder and crease that just a teeny little bit. Give that a good crease there. The next thing you're going to do is take this piece here over on the left side, and you can see there's the flappy piece. You're going to take this piece over on the left side, and you're going to fold it back over this. But depending on how you've trimmed this piece here, when you fold this piece over, sometimes it kind of like overlaps this, and it doesn't fold nice, and it prevents it from lying flat. So the easiest way to kind of solve that problem is bring that trimmer back. And this piece here, we're just going to trim it just a hair. So I just spun it around here so that I've got that at the top. I'm going to put this whole thing underneath. And when I line this up to trim it, where I'm trimming is this little ledge right here. So I'm going to line this up so that it takes like a 1/16 of an inch off, not a whole lot. And just trim that up, make sure that's nice and flat. Trim that up to that halfway line. And you can see here, that's how much I trimmed off. Not a lot. And I'm just going to trim that right at the edge here. And that just should pop right out. So that's the little hunk that I took off there. You can see it's not a lot at all. But what it does do is it provides enough space so that when you have that over there, let's just flatten that out again here. When you have that there is just a teeny weeny little bit of space here, so that when we take this piece here and we fold it up, we want it folding up nice and perfect square. Sometimes you have to go back and take another little chunk off, but it's better to take a little chunk off at a time and then work your way up to bigger chunks off. And you can see here, it folds it up nicely. And you can kind of see here, there's just it's just slightly down from where the score is. Not a lot, but just enough so that it folds flat. So give that a really good burnish and make sure it's nice and flat. Okay, so there we go. Next, we're going to bring that trimmer back. And we are going to spin it around so that the part that opens, it opens up sort of towards your tummy, and the part that's sort of separate by itself is off to your left-hand side. We're going to feed that under here, and we want to go to 3¼ So measure 3¼ and this is on that tall flap. This is the side here that opens. Get that out of the way. So this is 3¼ here, and you're going to trim that off. Don't worry, that's part of the process. And we're going to set those aside for right now. So now we have a card that looks like this. It opens like this, and you've got this little weird orphan piece here. So now what do we do with that? Take this little hunk that you set aside, that you just cut off, set it aside. That piece that we cut off in the beginning, that top right-hand corner, grab that, because we need to make our fence posts. So you're going to need this, and you're going to need your embossing machine, whatever you use. There are lots of embossing machines out there. I'm just going to grab mine here. So here's my plates that I use when I am using an embossing folder. And let's grab our folder out here. And the next thing you're going to do is take your piece of paper. Your fence posts are going to go crosswise like this. And this piece basically replaces sort of the bottom half of this. And it is exactly the same size as this, which is perfect. We won't have to do a whole lot of cutting for that. And we won't use this whole piece up, which is good. So next, what we want to do is we want to decide, okay, what direction do we want our wood grain? Should it go up and down this way, or should it go sideways this way? We know that our fence posts are going to be like strips off of this. So that's where I'm going to look at my grain here. And you can see my grain kind of goes up and down here. So do I want my grain going acrosswise, or do I want it going along the fence post? Well, you make your decision however you want to do it. I am going to have them go crosswise like this, because then when I cut my fence posts, it'll be like there's a strip of a fence post, there's a strip of a fence post. It'll look, it'll look okay. So you just sort of line it up in there, however you have your grains, and again, it's however you want to have your grains flowing. When you put something into a big shot or some sort of an embossing machine like this, and this works for dies as well, you don't want to kind of square everything up like this, because when the rollers inside your machine go over this sort of line here, you'll hear that ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Well, it's really hard on the rollers. So if you can, you want to kind of just put it just a little bit sideways. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. You can see here I've got maybe a 1/4 inch over in this side, and it's tucked right up tight here, and about a 1/4 inch here, and it's tucked up right tight here. That's all you kind of need, is just a little bit of a sideways bend on it. And then let's see here if I have my sandwich correctly. Let's run it through, and it should be firm, but not, you shouldn't have to force it. And you heard my ka-chunk when I went through the tail end of that. The other thing to remember is when you are putting your embossing folder through, there's a side that has the fold and then the side that opens. Always put the side that has the fold. That should go first through the machine. Because if there's any sort of give, and maybe your sandwich is just a little tight like mine was, and this all kind of flexes, you don't want it flexing into your fold, because it'll blow out those hinges. If you want flex, you want it coming towards the open ends, because then they'll just kind of like open up like this, and there won't be any harm, but if it tries to open up like that and it's stuck up against the top hinges, it'll blow at your hinges. You don't want that. All right, so now we've got our piece here, and I'm just going to go and tuck these out of the way here because we don't need those anymore. So you've got your wood grain piece right there, and there'll be the side where the bumps come up, and then you'll have the side where the bumps go down. That will be your next sort of decision, is your little fences. Do you want the bumps up or do you want them down? But before you come to that point, we need to put a little bit of color on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab, let's see here, grab my color. Let's see here, which one did I use here? I used a little brown. Where did I put it? Of course, I can't put my hands on it, so I'm going to grab a different one. All right, so I'm just going to grab my ink. And if you've watched my Beautiful Backgrounds workshop, you'll know how to sort of drag the ink across. But basically, you want to try and drag the tip part of it here across in whatever direction. So I've got my wood grain going left to right here. I'm just going to gently, it's almost flat. If you were to picture this, down like this, it's almost flat, but just a little bit tilted here so that just this one end kind of drags across. Lighter is better to start with because you can always come back and add more, but it's harder to add less. And so just really, really light, and you can always come back and add some more if you notice that it's missing a little. Now I think that's pretty good. And you can see here, there and there are spots where, let's bring this up here. You can see right here and here are spots where my edge got put down rather than over on the edge here. But nobody's going to notice that in the grand scheme of things when you're all sort of done and these are fence posts. So I'm not so worried about it. But you kind of start off and just drag it across, get that nice wood grain showing. And there you go. And now, depending on the ink that you have used, you might have to dry this. I'm not so worried about mine because it's pretty quick drying. And if you've made a little bit of a mess on your mat here or whatever surface, just go at it with a little bit of a wet wipe. You know, these are baby wet wipes from Costco, and so just clean that off there. And then I always just take a dry towel just to make sure, because of course, depending on your ink, if it's water activated and your top is still a little moist, now you're activating your ink and it's moving, and you may not want that. All right, so we're back to our trimmer here and our big piece of wood grain paper here. And I think based on this versus this, I think I'm going to have this side as my front and this as my back. So let's put it in. And what we want is we want 1/2 inch stripes. And depending on how much you trust yourself, these are exactly 4 1/4, because of course that's just 1/4 of the piece that we already pulled out. So you could do your 1/2 inch slices off of this. If you're not sure, you could put your 1/2 inch slices like this and have them going this way. The only thing is then you are going to use more of this paper, but you have plenty of paper here. But you have some trimming on the sides to do. I'm going to line everything up nicely, so I'm going to do this. So I'm going to cut my 1/2 inch strips off like that. So I'm going to just line up my 1/2 inch here with the 1/2 inch on my trimmer. Make sure I've got my trimmer blade off. And we need, whoops, my little piece just fell off. Let's put that back and we'll reconstruct it later. All right, we need 7 of these. So there's the first one. We're going to cut our second one. And our third one. And let's see here, 4. And you want to make sure that you're cutting square. 5. 6 and 7. There you go. And so you will have a little chunk here, but that's okay. You can use that for another project or a later time. Next, we're going to go back to our little piece of paper here. I'm going to flip it so that the part that folds over is towards the top, and I'm going to put that right up the top here. And I'm going to actually use my lines here, and I'm going to line it up with my lines so that I know where that I'm straight. And then I just have a couple of little magnets here. They're kind of weak net magnets, so I use 4 of them. So that will prevent it from moving a whole lot. Next, what we want to do is we want to line this up and so that it lines up nice and squarely here with our mat. So probably easiest here. Let's just go, yes, we'll leave these here. And what you want is a little bit of either painter's tape or repositionable tape like this. There's all sorts of different brands, but you just want to have sort of a hunk like that. And what you're going to do, sticky side up, and you're just going to tuck it underneath the end of that, just like that. And let's just move this so that we can put it back here for a minute so that we can use this as a sort of guide for our sizing here. And you can see the sticky side runs here. The sticky is up. We're going to take one of our fence posts, whichever one you want, whether it's, the back side or the right side, and you're going to put it right along the bottom as if it were sort of that bottom piece of the front. And you can see it lines up on the left and the right and along the bottom. And just push that down and it's going to get into that tape. And then just grab your next one here and make sure it's the same way, that it's like these are all the fronts, these are all the backs, or type thing. And you're going to come down a little bit from that top one and do the exact same thing. Make sure it's squared up with the sides and just give it a push into that tape. And then we're going to take the next one, and we've got 5 of these. So you're going to kind of eyeball it and put the 5 down. And the nice thing about the repositionable tape is if you get to, let's say you got to the center like this, and you went, okay, these are all equal spacing, but I've got this really big space in here. Well, you just pick these up and move them until they're sort of equal spacing. And there we go. That is pretty equal spacing to me. It's close enough. All right, you still have 2 pieces left. That's where we're going to pull out our glue. And you want to decide where you want your fence posts to live. Now, I wouldn't recommend putting them on the outside because you do need some sort of help through the center to give it some solidity. So if you're doing it like this, then I might even cut another piece and put it down the center. But I'm going to sort of come in sort of like that so that it still supports, the center and the left and the right, but it's not completely, I don't need to cut another piece. The other thing you want to do is you want this top portion here is going to be what helps to keep this glued to the top portion. So I'm just going to sort of move it up like this, leave enough room so that you can still put your sentiment. So here, my top portion here is hidden underneath this flower and under this flower here. If you go put it too high, then you're not going to have room for your sentiment. So take a look at the size of your sentiment and see exactly what kind of space you have. And I think that's pretty good there. And then I want the other one to be sort of equal distant on the top there. I can do that a little bit, and equal distant on the side. Works really well until you bump it. There we go. So that's pretty close. So use your eyeballs and just move that out of the way, and then go, okay, I need some glue up here, and just put a blob of glue just running in a nice little line down. And you can kind of see here, if I take that off, you can see there where I have the blobs of glue, and that's nice in a nice little line so that when I line this guy up, and take this and sort of smear it through the top there and grab that and just line it up. I'm going to have a little trimming in the bottom, but that is okay. There we go. Just push that down for a minute. We're going to put a weight on that in a minute just to make sure that it grabs hold a lot, but we're going to put our glue first. So I need a glob of glue here. And remember that if you're using something with an embossed texture in it, you can see there where my glue blobs are. You want to use a little bit more glue than you think, because that glue is going to need to go up into all those little nooks and crannies to really grab a hold. So I'm just going to kind of put a couple of magnets here just to kind of hold it down. If you don't have magnets, what you can do is just get a book, or if you've got a nice big heavy acrylic block here that you use for stamping, just put that down over top just like that. You just need it there for a minute or so just to kind of really give that glue a chance to set and grab a hold. So there we go. All right, there's those. I'm going to get rid of that guy because we don't need that. Next, we're going to need the 4 by 5.5. Now this is double-sided paper. I haven't decided whether I'm going to use this side or this side yet, but it won't really matter because the measurements are going to be all the same. So we want to cut, if you have directionality like me, your 4 is going to be up and down. So make sure that that's 4. And then we need to cut that 5.5, because it's 5.5 inches tall by 4 inches wide. There we go. Okay, there we go. So this should be set now. I'm just going to leave that sticky piece in there for right now. We don't really need to, but I'm just going to do that to keep it. When you're gluing down, just make sure that you don't get a little bit of glue. Like I had a little bit of glue here that scooshed out here, and you can see kind of made little icky sticky marks here. This is a glue eraser. If you've never had one or seen one, oh my God, they're marvelous, because you've got that sticky glue right there. Literally, you just do this and it just erases that little glue bit. And I have another one over here. And literally, you cannot see it now. It's not sticky. It's nice and smooth. It's like it was never there. So that was a glue eraser. They're awesome. All right, this piece is going to go here. Now I've made it a little bit long, you can see here, but that's okay. We can trim that up. I wanted to make sure that I had the pattern exactly where I wanted it. Let's take our sticky piece off. When you're taking your sticky piece off, if you've used painter's tape, you wanted to have made sure that you touch it against your clothing or something like that, or against your hand like this, just to take a little bit of the sticky off. You want a little sticky but not too much sticky. And when you're peeling it back, you just kind of peel it back like this very carefully so that it doesn't pull off any of the paper that's here. So I'm just going to sort of test drive a couple of these here so I can see that there. And if my embellishments are here, that's a little too much color for me. So I'm thinking, okay, let's flip this over here. And even though I can still see it, it doesn't compete with the embellishments that I have on the front. So I think I'm gonna have it on this side. And when I looked here, you can see here it's got a nice little edge around, but I'm just a little bit long here. So I am going to just take my trimmer and trim that off just a little bit. Probably, well, we'll start with 1/4 of an inch and then see how much more we might need. So if we position that there, I like that a lot better. All right. So now I can glue that down on this piece here. So I'm going to put the glue on this side because this is not the side that I want. And just stick that there, just sort of centered like that. Give it a good squish down. And before I put on my embellishments, I am going to look and I will trim these little bits off because we know that this should be the exact bottom of the page. So I'm just going to trim them off nice and square like that because then they'll be nice and square with the bottom of the page. And my embellishments are going to kind of go like this. And I haven't decided whether I want them like this or whether I want them kind of tucked under. Hmm, I think I almost would like them here, just occupying a little bit more space. And I'll just sort of tuck them underneath some of the strings of the balloons, just like that. It serves two purposes, tall like this. One, it covers more of the fence line, so it provides solidity to more of the fence. Um, and it kind of frees up so that all my stuff is sort of in the center here and it's empty here and empty sort of the cross side over here. I can move it over a little bit here so that it covers one of the fence posts or partially covers a fence post. But in terms of where I want my sentiment, I know I've got this space up here. So depending on how brave you are and if you have one, I'm going to use, let's see here, I'm going to use the happy birthday sentiment. So I'm just going to peel that off. You can either use an acrylic block of some type and then just put your stamp on here and stamp like that. Or, because I don't always trust myself, I'm going to use a Misty. Now, the nice thing about Misties is if you have them, and let's say that your stamp just doesn't quite get all the way there. You know how sometimes you put a little bit, you put some ink on and it's really good in some part, but like blotchy in another part. A Misty or something like that, a stamp positioner is really handy because you can just stamp again another time and it's not going to go anywhere and you know that it's fine. And I'm just not liking how this is kind of popping out through the other side. So I'm just going to use the different stamp positioner that I have here that has an open end. And the only thing is it doesn't have a sticky mat in it. So I'm going to have to watch where I'm going here. So I'm going to just tuck that in there and you can see it just pops out through the open end. I'm going to position this here, but then I'm going to also take my embellishments, and your embellishments, as I said before, can be die cuts like this. It can be something store-bought. It can be a larger die cut like this that you have reinforced. It's completely up to you. So if I have that sort of there, so everything sort of from this point up is attached to the solid part of the card. So it's going to help provide solidity. These are going to provide solidity because they're multi-layers. And then my little guy here, let's see here if I still like this. As much as I like it tall, I'm almost thinking it would look better like this. It would make more sense. The bows would make more sense. If I was smart, I could make myself some little actual little die cut presents, and I could put them whatever direction I want. But this is a solid stamp, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them sort of like that, a little bit on this fence post, a little bit on this fence post, a little bit on the up and down fence post, and it kind of ties into those balloons as well to provide some solidity. But I wanted to just make sure that, you know, I am where I want to be. So I think that is going to be nice placement if I put those sentiments there. So let's just tuck that in. Oops, and that I did not hold it long enough, did I? All right, so let's just put that back. Let's just grab these again. I should just need these guys here, so I'll just put those there and just make sure that that is roughly straight, and it looks pretty straight. So I'm just going to hold that there and push that down, and it's going to come up, but that's okay because I have tucked it right into the corner. So I know that as long as it stays in the corner, that's going to stay there. And then I just need my ink. Let's grab my ink and little dab will do you here. And then just put that down. See whether it's exactly where you wanted it or not. And actually, that's not a bad attempt. It hit everything nice and square. and it looks nice and solid, so I'm good there. So let's just go and clean off our stamp a little bit. There we go. Just take most of the ink off so that it doesn't travel. And now I can put this away. And now I've got everything. This part is all folded up here. This is good. I'm now going to put glue on here. Now, keeping in mind when you're putting glue on here that there are holes that the glue is going to go through. So you can see I folded the rest of the card back, because then if the glue goes through those holes in the slats, it gets onto my mat and I can wipe it up later, and it's no big deal. So go ahead, put lots of glue on here. You want to make sure that especially all those little strings have a chance to glue themselves down, because they're part of what is going to make your fence nice and stable. So there we go. Almost got them all. There. So you can see I've got a little glue on all of them. Now what I do, because these little strings are very slim, and it's very easy, even though I've been sort of careful about putting the amount of glue on that I have, it's very easy for it to come off and blob off. We don't want it blobbing off. So I'm just going to kind of tap those bits off on my hand. And you can see all the excess glue that came off, but there's still lots of glue on here. It's still going to, do what it's supposed to do, but it just won't blob. So there we go. I'm going to make sure that I cover up the top of that fence post, kind of angle it a little bit here. Let's see here. There we go. And now you'll want to glue that down, put a weight on it, because it's going to really grab a hold into those little spots where the fence posts are. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to grab my presents and we can glue those down. And the only thing we have left to do when these go down is to go ahead and, let's see here. So I could have the presents over top of, or I could lift these little guys up and put the presents underneath. And I think actually I'm going to do one of each. Because I've got this big blob here, I'm actually going to trim this off. And then my presents will sit nice and flat, sort of underneath them. It's just under the corner, but that's okay. Alrighty, so there we go. And position them like that. Put that there. Give that a minute for the glue to get into those little nooks and crannies of that fence board so that it really holds well. Now, if you notice once you've glued it and it's dried that it's still kind of loosey-goosey, what you can do is you can put a piece of acetate in behind here. So I think we're going to just sort of lift this up, and good, no glue came through. So this is what the back side looks like. Now some of this might be a little sticky because these little bits might have a little glue, but that's where you get your embossing, the little puff pad for your embossing powder, and just gently tap over top and it will get rid of the sticky on those little glue spots, and just wipe off the excess off of the boards and you're good to go. So if you were putting a piece of acetate here, I would cut it exactly the same size as this, but I would make it a little bit longer. And then when I made it a little bit longer, I would glue it sort of here, and I would put a score line right here. And then on this page here, I would put another little piece of pattern paper, because then that pattern paper is going to hide that glue line of the acetate. If you're not so worried about that and you want to put something up here, you could just make it slightly larger than this, maybe up to here, glue it from here up, and then just look and go, hey, who cares if people see it? I don't care. If you wanted to, on the back side of this, you could put 2 more little fence posts that would go right on top of the other fence posts to hide sort of the back side of it. And, if you wanted to, you could put another decoration on here. I'm looking at that going, you know what, nobody's going to be that concerned that they can see a little bit of the back of that. I am not so worried about this. And this is good enough. So the other thing is if you want to put another sentiment in here, You can, if you wanted, as I say, to put a piece of pattern paper in here to hide up that acetate. If you wanted to put a slice of acetate, you could, and then put a white piece over top so you have a place where you can write your sentiment. It's completely up to you. All right, so I'm just going to push down, do my burnish again here, and do my burnish one more time, right along the top very carefully. And there we go. So there is our card. And you can see it's similar but different. It's all in sort of the base card. How you decorate it is completely up to you, but the base card is all the same with every time. What I might do here, just because you can see the top of the fence, if it really bothered me, I'd find another little balloon and just kind of tuck it in there, or maybe make another little bit of these flowers and just kind of plunk them on top, or cut out this little present here and plunk that right up on top as if it was a present sitting on top of the fence post. Um, I'm looking at that going, you know what, I'm not that bothered by it. And the nice thing is that that peachy orange underneath kind of goes along with the peachy orange of the balloons. So it's kind of, it looks like it's supposed to be there. But yeah, there are the two samples of cards. I'll get them out of behind my face there. And yeah, I hope you had lots of fun making this. Come on back next Tuesday and we'll do this again with a different card. Of course, if you like what you see and you enjoy my teaching technique, subscribe to my YouTube channel or check out www.papercrafthugs.com. I'm working on my homepage, so you might want to wait a week or two so that I can get that up. But in the meantime, if you subscribe to my YouTube page, you'll get notifications whenever I go live or recorded, and show you how to make another one of these cute cards. All right. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you had a fun time. Take care. Have a good day.